I'm Jill Seitz. I am the craft beer manager for Missouri Beverage. A little bit about me really quickly. I just moved to St. Louis in January. I'm very much enjoying the fair city of St. Louis and the state of Missouri. It's awesome. What a killer craft beer scene. I had no idea when I moved here to take over the beer situation at MoBev that it was going to be as awesome as it is, and that is very much clearly left up to you awesome people. So thank you very much for that. One of my jobs at MoBev is to help with new suppliers, talk about them, educate people on them, and we brought in Rogue in April of this year, and it's been doing awesome. Rogue is one of those legacy brands. I don't know how many of you guys have had a Rogue beer, show of hands, in your life? Nice. I certainly hope so. So Rogue is part of the class of 1988, which is a big deal. It's about, makes them all about 25, 26, 27. They started in Ashland, Oregon, way out near Portland. And they started brewing there in the basement of the Rogue Public House. They brewed there for about a year until they realized that they wanted to open a different brew pub. Rogue is all about brew pubs. Any of you who have been out in the beautiful Pac Northwest know that Rogue has 22 brew pubs. It's crazy town. They're awesome. Very cool. So the first one, the outpost of First, started because they were looking for another one to open, and one of the founders got stranded in Newport in a freak, crazy-ass snowstorm. And during this crazy-ass snowstorm, he met Mo. Mo is referred to as Mom. I don't have a Mom's Hefeweizen here, but if any of you had that delicious, delicious Hefeweizen in May, Mo is on the label. So Mo had this dream about opening kind of a brew pub that she would live above. It would be a bar, and she had this space, this kind of cool gallery space that could be a restaurant. And she told the founders, Jack Joyce, who was one of them, that they could have it basically for a steal if they did two things. One of those things, these are important, I'm guessing they could be trivia questions later. One of those things was that they had to constantly feed the fishermen and treat them well, because Newport is a fishing town still to this day. I was just out there recently, actually, and the sea lions and seals are very loud. So it's a fishing town, so they had to feed the fishermen, which they still do. And two, they always had to keep a picture of her up. So if you ever go to the original Rogue Brew Pub and Brewery, you will see a naked lady in a bathtub sitting above the bar. That's Mo, that's Mom, she's still there, she hangs out, and she's on the label. So that's sort of how Rogue got started. About a year later, John Meyer, it's not John Mayer, the singer, it's John Meyer, the brewer. He's been there for about 25 years. He came in and has been their brewer ever since. He's the brewmaster. He is still on the brew deck every day. Hates email, hates phone calls, couldn't manage a flea if he tried, but is really, really good at brewing. He is the guy behind Beard Beer. We're not talking about Beard Beer today, but really quickly I'll give you the backstory if any of you have heard about it or seen it or think it's creepy and gross. Basically, Rogue is all about farms and history, and they wanted to find a wild yeast, and they figured with all the biking and the growing and the farming, surely we could find wild yeast out here. So they had white labs come out and look for wild yeast, and they took samples from everywhere, the hops, everything. And they took a sample from John's beard, thinking it would be really funny, and the only viable yeast source they found in the 57 samples they took was in John's beard. And that's what they use, and it's in Beard Beer, and it sounds weird and funky and crazy, but it's actually quite delicious. Once you get past the weirdness of Beard Beer, it's actually quite delicious. I know you love it, I know. It's quite delicious, so I strongly recommend it. Thank you. Dead Guy. So Dead Guy Ale, it's on my t-shirt, it's on the lovely waitress's t-shirt who's wearing tie-dye. Dead Guy Ale is a German maibock. It is not an IPA. Sorry, every time it happens I feel bad. It is not an IPA. A lot of people think it is, but it's not. So Dead Guy is a German maibock. It rolls in at about, I have to look at my notes, don't yell at me. It is about 6.5%. It's about 40 IBUs. It's clearly their flagship beer. Everyone knows Dead Guy. It's got the skeleton and the whole thing. And for October, it's clearly fitting for our first beer. Dead Guy is the only beer that John Meyer will never change the recipe to. As Rogue continues on their farm theme, and I was just out there for about 3 days touring the farms and the brewery and everything. They are growing all of their own ingredients at this point. They're growing, they have 7 trademarked hops. They have a huge malt farm. They're doing floor malting. They're doing their own smoking. And they're growing pumpkins and hazelnuts and everything you could think of. all of that is making its way into every single beer. Almost every beer, every beer we're going to taste today. With the exception of the malt that's in Dead Guy, John Meyer won't let anything else in. None of the trademarked hops, nothing else. He refuses to change the recipe. He knows it works well, it's efficient, and that is it. And Dead Guy is Dead Guy, and we don't change Dead Guy. It just rolls how it rolls. So Dead Guy has some sterling hops and some pearl hops. It does have, like I said, the trademarked Rogue malt in it. And it's just a really delicious maibock. It's the beer kind of everybody gets into Rogue with. Have you guys all had Dead Guy before? Everyone? Yes? Everyone love it. Any? No? I love a no. Nice. There happens to also be a Dead Guy whiskey. There's an XS Dead Guy, which is their kind of higher line. Any questions about this beer? Yes. The two hops, the question is, what were the two hops? The two hops are pearl and sterling. Yes. Any other questions about it? I surely can tell you what a maibock is. A maibock was originally brewed, as I know the story of maibock, and let's be clear, I sell beer. I did used to own a brewery, but I know things in tidbits, so feel free to correct me. As I know the story of maibock, it is a German-style beer that was originally brewed in May. It's a spring bock, right? So it was a May bock. God, that's annoying. I'm sorry. God, it's just I suck a little bit. And it's really just sort of a flavorful, malt-forward, not very bitter, with a little bit of bitterness on the tongue, but not a ton German-style beer. Does that help my microphone situation? Yes. The question was, how many brew pubs does Rogue have? There are 22 Rogue brew pubs in the Pac Northwest. The question was, do they all make beer? Yes, they all make beer. Some of them do get beer directly from the distributor, from their individual distributors, but most Rogue brew pubs do brew beer. Can I help that situation any? Is that better? Yay. So they do all tend to make beer in some small capacity, whether it's on a pilot batch or a 3-barrel batch, but they do all brew beer. And in their brew pubs, they tend to do some really cool, interesting things. They'll take Dead Guy, for example, and, they don't really do anything cool with Dead Guy because it's Dead Guy, but they'll take, Hazelnut Brown, and they'll try it with some extra oats in it. And they'll try to really do the things that brew pubs are known for. Their brew pubs are beautiful. The food is impeccable. They're really very interesting, cool things to check out. What do you guys think of the beer, most importantly? Nice. I like it. It's a really good, easy drinking beer. I mean, quite frankly, Dead Guy is a lot of people's gateway beer into craft beer, and it's obvious to see why. I really do love it. I think it would be interesting to see what John Meyer would do with it if the farm was allowed in it a little bit. Their farms are, so we went out there for this big, the first annual, wholesaler oyster and hop festival, which was so awesome. You basically get to go all over the hop farms, and then there's a big oyster fest in Newport, and their farm is huge. You have to take huge shuttles to get back and forth to everything. There's just acres and acres of hops, and they've been cultivating it for years, and you can just see every step and every layer that they've really taken to make this ecosystem work so well. And Rogue will say to you, they can't be local everywhere because they're in 50 states and 19 countries, but they want to be the best Rogue that they can be. And as somebody who cares a lot about local beer, and more importantly about local ingredients and things like that, I think it's really interesting to see how nationally recognized breweries and breweries that are brewing 165,000 barrels a year are taking that information and making it part of their beer, and how do they bring that to us and their ingredients. And it's really interesting. So like I said, they do Dead Guy whiskey. They're floor malting all of the barley for Dead Guy whiskey, and that's a really cool tie-in, I think you guys are drinking 7 Hop right now. Is that what we moved on to? So 7 Hop is one of the newer beers in the Rogue series. Question? Dead Guy Whiskey is not a bourbon, but it is sold here, and it is delicious. Is it sold at Cicero's is a question I don't know the answer to. Not... the question was, I'm sorry, is Dead Guy Whiskey a bourbon, and is it sold here? The answer is no, it's not a bourbon. It is sold in St. Louis, but I don't know if it's sold at Cicero's yet. There is your answer. Dead Guy is October. October is Dead Guy month, so there are certainly around the city, a lot of Dead Guy events. For any further questions, you can talk to Jim McGinn after class. Okay, so 7 Hop. 7 Hop is one of the newer beers. It started out as a farm series beer. It includes all 7 of the trademarked hops grown at Rogue, which I'm going to tell you what they are, and you're all going to say, what are all those hops? And I'm going to say they're trademarked, and they don't make any sense to those of us who know the names of real hops, but they're Rogue hops. They are Liberty, Newport, Revolution, Rebel, Independent, Freedom, and Alveol. Basically, what Rogue has done is they've taken rhizomes and worked with hop growers to develop them and create them and cultivate them into their own strains of hops. Rogue likes to talk about terroir a lot, as in terroir with wine, but they believe that everything grown on their land is really theirs and belongs to them and is taking the flavor of what they're growing and making it about them. So 7 Hop is about 7.6%. It's a true IPA. It is one of my favorite beers to come out of Rogue in a long time. It's beautiful. If you smell it, the aroma is incredible. It's available in bombers and on draft. I love it on draft. I also love it in a bomber. But it's a really fresh approach to what everyone's doing with IPAs. You really just get a nice sense of the farm, and it's made with all farm ingredients. Everything's grown on the farm, all the grains. Yes, question? I'm sorry. Oh, the question was, in trouble, is what are the 7 hops again? A little bit slower, no big surprise there. And what's the difference between a true IPA and a fake IPA? Without getting myself in a lot of trouble, let's answer your first question. The 7 hops are Liberty, Newport, Revolution, Rebel, Independent, Freedom, and Alveol. You can sort of see a theme. They're very roguish, Rebel, Independent. True IPA and fake IPA, there's no fake IPA. True IPA to me just means I think that we get sometimes swept away, and this is my opinion, not Rogue's. I would like to state that for the record. This is Jill Seit's opinion, not Rogue's. I think sometimes these days we're getting very swept away in numbers, right? I think we're getting swept away in, we've got 175 IBUs. Your palate can't necessarily taste 175 international bitterness units, right? So for me personally, I like things that are balanced. I like things that have hop flavor, but I don't need to be beat over the head with piney, sprucey, giant, smack you in the face things. So for me, that's what I mean by it. It's really just a preference, personal. It has no business being taught in a beer school. It was just my loud mouth kind of creeping in as, well, thank you very much. The question was, are all 7 of those hops grown at Rogue's Farm? And the answer is yes, they are. Everything in 7 Hop is grown at Rogue Farm. The malts, everything. Yes, question. The question was, what she understands I'm saying is, did Rogue take rhizomes and put them in and just grow them and change the name? That's not really what happened. Basically, it's not, because they didn't take rhizomes. I should have said that better. Basically, what they did is they worked with hop growers to re-hybrid their rhizomes with what had started growing on the farm from Columbus and I think Fuggle and a few others, to then work backwards and start again and then plant those. Does that make sense? It's selective hop breeding that then grows into, because then they pull those down and then they start again, and then they pull those down and then they start again, and then they're cross-pollinating and they're right, and then there's some science and some horticulture to it that I don't necessarily understand, I'll be honest, and the only person who really does probably doesn't understand it himself, and if I I think there's a lot of like, oh my God, this worked and it tastes awesome. Let's use it and name it Independent. Done. But you know, they really believe in what they're doing and what they're growing there and the hard work that they're putting into the dirt, and therefore, you know, in the way that a Bordeaux grape in Bordeaux is very different than a Bordeaux grape in California. What did I do? Absolutely. And that's really, I think, one of the questions that Rogue is addressing with renaming their grains and their hops is, it really is. And I think we're getting to that point in craft beer where dirtoir, or, you know, the dirt really does matter. Yes, question. They're breeding, they're cross-pollinating. Yeah, yeah. So the question was, the question was, are they cross-pollinating or just renaming? And the answer is cross-pollinating. You know, the truth is this conversation comes into more of, what does the dirt mean? What does the earth mean? What does the land mean? And the answer is a lot. You know, at this point, Sierra Nevada is growing their own hops. A lot of people are growing their own hops. And to use Sierra Nevada's hops in a Rogue beer would make very little sense, right? So I think it's the same kind of sensibility about it. What do you guys think of 7-Hop? Yeah, had anybody here tasted it before? Oh, not very many people. That's awesome. Good. Do you guys like it? Will you drink it again? Sweet. That's fantastic. We know what he wants. Hazelnut? All right. So we are going to move on to an old staple of Rogue's that happens to be, I think, one of the most beautiful beers that they brew. Second only to the beer that's coming after it. This is Hazelnut Brown Nectar. So, I just heard an oh. So before I even start to talk, just smell this beer for me, okay? Everybody at the same time, because I just want to watch. So close. Didn't happen. That's what I thought, but that's okay. That smells like hazelnuts. Now I feel better. I thought I was losing my mind. So you really smell the hazelnuts, right? I was lucky enough on my farm tour to taste the hazelnuts grown on that farm. They are incredible. They are just as incredible as I hoped that they would be. This beer to me represents everything wonderful about growing your own ingredients. When you taste it, and I'm going to taste it so I can really be in the moment with you guys. Oh, I love it so much. So you really get that creamy mouthfeel. You really get that back note sweetness, almost like a it's like a hazelnut liqueur, or, you know, you really get that beauty, but it's not overpowering. It still tastes like a beer. It's really beautifully creamy. You have a beautiful head. I think this beer is everything wonderful about well-aged brewers. They know what they're doing, and they're doing it well. So this beer, just to give you some stats, I'm going to look at my notes again. This beer is about 6.2%. It's got malts from Rogue. It's got Independent and Revolution hops. It is about 33 IBUs, so really just sweetly bitter, just a little balance to balance out the sweetness. And it's just beautiful. The guy on the label is actually a guy that John Meyer used to homebrew with. The thing about this beer is that this is the beer that won John Meyer homebrew competitions well before he was at Rogue. So he's been brewing this beer a really, really long time. The recipe's never changed except for the addition of Rogue ingredients. This beer is the reason that Rogue really started getting into the farm, because they decided that hazelnuts were really expensive, and they are for anyone like me who tries to buy them in the grocery store. And he just wanted to grow them. He was like, this is crazy. We're never going to be able to make enough of this beer. It's never going to be cost efficient. So they started growing them. And from that hazelnut patch grew everything else. And to me, I just find this beer to be lovely. And getting it on tap is not always... It's not a beer that everybody buys on tap. I'm hoping that as we go into the fall, this is the distributor in me, but as we go into the fall, I'm hoping we'll see it a lot more. It's just beautiful on tap. It's great in a bottle. Don't get me wrong. You should still buy it in a bottle. It's available in 6-packs and bombers, and it's great in your local grocery store. But on draft, there's just something really simple and pure about it, and I personally just love it. What do you guys think about it? Yeah? I like a lot of thumbs up. Question in the back. I would say no, you shouldn't drink it. Are you allergic to hazelnuts? The question was, if you're allergic to hazelnuts, should you drink this beer? My answer is no. Are you allergic to hazelnuts? Oh, I'm sorry. Does that mean no Nutella for you? Wow, God. That's a rough life, my friend. Yeeshta. I'm so taken aback by that statement. I feel terrible for you. Wow, God, really, that just startled me. I'm worried you're going to go into... He asked if he could drink it because he's allergic to hazelnuts. And now I'm concerned because he can't have Nutella, which makes me even sadder for him. No this and no Nutella. No, he didn't drink it. No EpiPens are necessary in this beer school. We're safe. We're safe. So the interesting thing about the comparison of Rogue beer and spirits for this beer is that Rogue makes a hazelnut brown rum. I am going to back off that statement by telling you one important thing. I hate rum in almost every... I love this. She's like nodding with me. We're so in sync. I hate rum. I think it's pretty disgusting in almost all ways. Their hazelnut brown rum somehow makes me not hate it. I like drinking them side by side almost. It drinks a little bit more like a whiskey. It's really pretty, a little bit balanced. So it's interesting what they've been able to do. And Rogue is coming into their own in their spirits with things like that. And I know this is beer school, not whiskey school, but if it were, trust me, I would be happy to lead that. But it's interesting just to see side by side things like Dead Guy and Dead Guy whiskey, hazelnut brown and hazelnut brown rum, the comparisons. So that's very cool. Do you guys have any questions about this beer? Technical or otherwise? No? I can keep talking about the hazelnuts. They're really cool on the farm. They serve them with everything. Yes. They planted their own hazelnuts. Yes. Yes. I don't know the exact acreage of the hazelnut portion. They have added to that farm over time. I know that it takes, at least 2 to 3 years to get a decent hazelnut crop. It's similar to asparagus, where they like come up and go down, and then they come up and go down. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to repeat the question. It was, did they grow their own hazelnuts or plant their own hazelnuts, or did they buy an existing hazelnut patch? And the answer was, you heard. I'm going backwards. Yes. Do I what? The question was, do they sweeten the beer? And the answer is no. The beer is sweetened because of the malt content, and the hazelnuts add a little bit of sweetness, but really it's just the manner in which they brew the beer. Yeah. I know, it's sweet. It's weird. It's, there's sugar in the mash and all of that, but there's no, added fructose corn syrup or anything disgusting like that. And actually, you know what? I'm going to tell you the truth. There is no sugar in this recipe. The recipe is just malt. I think it's the addition of the chocolate malt and a little bit of caramel malt that adds to that sweetness. And I'm guessing the boil is a little bit longer and that the mash is a little bit longer just to bring out that sweetness. But I'm not sure because John Meyer's not giving me his recipes, unfortunately.
There are no preservatives or added ingredients other than natural ingredients in the beer. So you get the true flavors from
I love it.
their expert brewing techniques and the products that are used.
They're really Jack Joyce just recently passed away. Jack Joyce is the founder. So Brett Joyce, his son, is leading the charge. And I met Brett. I was lucky enough to meet Brett when I was out there and talk to him for quite a bit. And he is far less of a rogue kind of hippie guy than his dad was, but, fisherman. But Brett is very into the land. And it's very important for him to kind of keep the farm pushing ahead more than anything else. He's a dude from Oregon. Let's be frank. But it's pretty interesting. Oh, here comes my favorite. Thank you. Okay. So, does everybody know what this is? The glass, specifically. Okay, so this is the Spiegelau Rogue Stout glass. There's also a left-hand one that says left-hand on it, but we're not talking about left-hand today. Yuck. There's the right-hand one, exactly. Good call. So Spiegelau is the glass company that made the IPA glass last year with Sierra Nevada and Dogfish. Many of you may have seen it. It had the twirly bottom. Spiegelau came to Rogue and Left Hand because they thought they made the two best stouts in the world. Shakespeare Stout, which is what we're drinking right now, and Left Hand Milk Stout, also a really phenomenal beer, I gotta say. They wanted to design the perfect stout glass, and this is what they came up with. It is flippin' gorgeous, and it drinks perfectly. I have done side-by-side comparisons because they take you through them in the challenge. I did this at CBC with a shaker pint of stout, Shakespeare Stout, and this, and let me tell you, it's a big difference. So Shakespeare Stout, if you take a whiff, mine's gonna be better than yours, sorry. It just tastes better in this glass. Oh, I love this beer. This is one of the beers that actually got me into really diving deep into craft beer. Shakespeare Stout is around 6%, very, very strong, true oatmeal stout. One of the first recipes that John Meyer really came out with, one of the beers they stand behind most of all. It is brewed with chocolate malt. It is brewed with roasted Rogue Independent Malt, whatever that's called, and it's brewed with Rogue Rebel hops. It's 6.1%. I was correct. What's most interesting to me about this beer is how long it's been around and how well it stands the test of time. It's creamy for sure. It has a beautiful head. There's a lot of stouts in today's day and age. As we just mentioned 2 really great ones. There's a lot of milk stouts coming out. There's a lot of new stouts coming out. They've never barrel aged this and released it. They've never done anything super crazy with it and released it. I'll get there. But it just stands a really strong, true test of time. What do you guys think about it before I go forward?
What do you guys tasting?
You guys are very quiet. I expected raucousness. I think it's better than Left Hand. Ryan Call, you're going to watch this and you're going to listen to that statement. I personally can't speak to that, but okay. It's very different than Left Hand's. Left Hand's is a milk stout, so it's got a little bit more sweetness. This is much drier, which I really like. It's almost got a lot of, if you think of almost like an Irish stout, it has a little bit more of that because it's a lot cleaner on the finish, which I really like about it. You definitely taste chocolate. You definitely get from the chocolate malt. There's very little sweetness, very little residual sugar comes out of this beer. I just found out when I was at Rogue, and this flipped my lid, they, at the brew pubs, brew a sriracha stout with Shakespeare Stout, as in the rooster sauce, and I gotta tell you, it's baller. I'm trying to weasel a few kegs out of them to come this way. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I'm really pulling hard for them, so we'll see what happens. But really, this beer is just, you can see it in the glass. I'll talk a little bit about the glass. The glass is perfect. It stays perfectly temperature controlled. The glass is super, super thin, so it doesn't, you don't lose the chill and you don't lose the flavor. And then when you hold it down here, for some amazing Spiegelau reason, it doesn't lose temperature. It is a 22-ounce glass, so if you're crazy and put your whole bomber in it, you can do it. And then when you get a pint of it, it fills to about here. I'm showing you this glass not to be snobby and say I have one and you don't, but we have some of these in our trivia giveaways. They're available kind of mixed places. I know like a couple of bars have done events with them. They will be available as of next year with the logos on them, but for right now you can only get them through Rogue and Left Hand, or through when bars like Cicero's do really super fun stout nights with Rogue glasses, and then they want to do like a beer in a glass and cool things like that. So I'm sure we can get Lou to do one of those.
Wine and Cheese does sell them, but they are not branded. So they have that exact glass of wine and cheese.
But not branded.
But not branded.
Yes, question. That's absolute. I don't know that there's any. There's roasted chocolate malt, so that can definitely be in it. I'm a firm believer in everyone's palate being very different. So I don't believe, and I feel this way about everything you can eat or drink in your life. There is no wrong answer. And I think if you...
Sorry to interrupt. We're going to switch you out, I think.
Okay.
Testing. 1, 2. Can you guys hear that? Yeah? All good? Turn it up just a little bit, maybe? No? Is this good? All right.
Yay, I don't have to be Madonna anymore.
Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I'll take that.
Just do your best breaking.
I don't do Brittany. I'm not so there. I'm much more Stevie than Brittany. Okay, is this better, guys? Yeah? Awesome. So I don't believe there's any wrong answer, is what I was saying. I think that your palate is your palate, and whatever you're tasting in that moment or that day is the right thing. The thing that's about to come out of my mouth now, which may or may not be correct, is in no way meant to offend anybody. It is why I have question about rating sites. Not that they're bad, because I don't believe they're bad, but when you are 4 breweries in on a tour day and you rate something badly, you have no idea what that beer maybe tastes or doesn't taste like, because you've been eating fried bacon and drinking sours all day, and then you go to taste a really balanced blonde, and you don't know what that beer tastes like anymore because your palate's wrecked, or you've been drinking hot bombs all day, or things like that. So it's very possible that you taste smoke and I don't, because I don't have that on my tongue today, you know? So I think it's really cool. Yeah. What else do you guys taste? Anything interesting? Questions? Comments? Questions about the farm? Questions about the brewery? Yeah, yes, in the back. Green shirt, hand up.
You have the 22 brew pubs. Where's the main?
The question was, there's the 22 brew pubs, where's the main brewery? So the main brewery is in Newport, just across the bay from where the original brew pub, which is still there, is. It's this huge, looks like an airplane hangar, and if you see me after class, I'll show you a picture. Right across the bay in Newport, under the bridge. It's gigantic. I think you can see it from an airplane. It says Rogue on it, and it's growing. They're actually taking up some more footage in Newport, but they are staying, production facility is staying in Newport. They are not a brewery that plans to put a production facility on the East Coast anytime soon. They are a Newport brewery. They believe in Newport water. They put it on every single label that they use fresh bay water, and they believe in that. So, yeah. Yes.
Okay, this is about the original brew pub?
Yes.
Rose, correct?
Yeah, it was at Moe's, yes.
Yes, okay, and so specifically, what did you mean by they had to feed the fishermen? What did that mean?
So the question is, what did that mean that they specifically had to feed the fishermen at the original brew pub? Basically, they had to, and I quote, feed the fishermen. So when the fishermen came in, they had to feed them. They had to give them a good deal. They had to take care of them. They had to use their fish. If they had fish they couldn't sell, they had to use it at the brew pub for food. And they still do that to this day. Rogue actually has a tuna line. I don't know if anybody knows that. You can order it online. It's pretty good. I eat it at home because I have a lot of it that gets shipped to me in packages, but it's pretty good. So they really have taken to the Newport fishing community like nobody's business. They do all the oyster events. They are paired with a local crabbery, and they do Rogue Creamery, which a lot of people know about, but they're really interlinked with the fishing community.
Okay, so they give the fishermen a better deal when they serve them, and also use their fish, is that what you're saying?
The question continued to, what did that really mean? What did I say, and what did it really mean? Basically, yes. I mean, 25 years ago, what it meant was when the fishermen are poor, give them a piece of bread and some soup. Now the relationship has grown. The fishermen are much more stable. Moe's not around anymore, and that continues on. But yeah, I mean, 25 years ago, that's pretty much what it meant. Yeah.
A couple of years ago, somebody was doing a road presentation.
Was his name Daryl?
Yes.
I know Daryl.
He mentioned that the original picture of Moe was sent out to be framed, and it came back not there. It was gone. Did you recover that?
The question is, when Daryl Copeland, who is still with Rogue, just couldn't be here tonight, was here a couple years ago, he talked about that the original picture of Moe was sent out to be framed and was stolen. Was it recovered? Yes, it was recovered.
Right.
Yes, and it is hanging there today. I saw it. It's there. She's naked. In a bathtub.
We've been there.
Yeah, so you've seen it, yes.
Yes. That is an intimidating thing to see.
And they give it to you in all the packaging. There's always the naked picture of Moe. Trivia?